Hey darling, welcome back to my channel. Boyce here, and on this channel it is my goal to help you find your next book obsession. So today I am here with a first look of Mark of the Fool. Now if you have read this one, I really want to know in the comments what you thought about it. Let me know what you thought, what worked, what didn't. Give me all of your thoughts, and if this is on your TBR, go ahead and leave me a comment with why it's on your TBR. I'm very curious. Now, what's a first look? Let me explain. If you're new to this series, here's the deal. First look is where I take books that have been calling to me and do a deep dive analysis before I actually read them. So I'm talking cover breakdown, premise analysis, character predictions, and most importantly, I scour the internet for real reader feedback to find the pros, cons, the trigger warnings, and all the honest takes on what this book is actually about. All of this is to help you and me both figure out if we want it on our TBR. I'm really hoping this series helps you find your next book obsession when you're feeling stuck and don't know what to read next. Okay, so today's first look is, like I said, Mark of the Fool by J.M. Clarke. Now, I have had this one on my TBR for a while, and I will be honest, J.M. Clarke is a really good friend of mine, so I am a little biased, but I'm going to do my best to keep everything about this first look as objective as I possibly can. Another thing to note, I really rely heavily on my notes for these videos, so if you see me looking down here, I'm just referencing something to make sure I get it right. Okay, so Mark of the Fool is a progression fantasy epic. It is book 1 out of 10, which is really nice. It's a very long series. And the genres are progression fantasy, game lit, coming of age, with a little bit of Magic Academy sprinkled in. It has a 4.6 out of 5 stars on Amazon with 72% 5-star reviews, which is great. Okay, so let's look at the cover. I really like the color palette. The deep blues and the gold, they work together. The first thing I noticed when I look at the cover is actually like the red orb, which I wish it was more so the sky or the title, but it's sort of my eye flows from the orb to the sky to the title, which is fine. You know, it's absolutely fine. The art style is really cool. I like it a lot. There are elements of steampunk, interestingly, in that blimp looking thing in the sky, and the magic and epic fantasy nature of it is very clear. So I like that this cover very much tells you what genre it falls into. Now, it doesn't tell you much about progression fantasy, but that's very difficult to put into a cover, so you know, it gets a pass on that. But really, I do like the art style of this one. So let's talk a little bit more about the key tropes that I found in this one. We're looking at weak to strong progression, a Magic Academy / university setting, a chosen one who rejects destiny, found family, a very creative magic system exploitation, so he works around the magic system and exploits it rather than purely following all the rules, and an academic slice of life element. That's one thing that I really got a lot from my research on this one. The slice of life component is pretty strong in this one, and it's more focused not on cozy fantasy, but slice of life, lower stakes with moments of high stakes and action as opposed to the other way around. Now I'm going to go ahead and read you the book description so that you can get a feel for what the story is about. After his parents died, Alex Roth had one desire: become a wizard. Through hard work, he was accepted into the University of Generaci, the world's greatest academy of wizardry. Fate, however, had other plans. On his 18th birthday, he is marked by prophecy as one of his kingdom's 5 heroes, chosen to fight the Ravener, his land's greatest enemy. But his brand is the Fool, the worst of the marks. Rather than die or serve other heroes like past fools, he takes a stand, rejects divine decree, and leaves. With his little sister, his childhood friend, and her Cerberus, Alex flees for the university, hoping to research the mystery of the Ravener. He'll make lifelong friends, learn magic from mad wizards, oh that sounds fun, practice alchemy, fight men and vampires, and try to pay tuition. I wonder if there are magical wizard school loans that he'll never pay off in his entire life. Not that I know anything about that. There's one small problem. The mark insists on preventing the Fool from learning and casting spells, while enhancing skills outside of divinity, combat, and spellcraft. That is, unless he learns how to exploit the hell out of it. I really like that. That whole, when a character can like correctly and intelligently subvert the magic system and, not break the rules. That's not what exploiting the magic system is, right? But actually working around it and being clever enough to figure out how to use it in ways that no one ever has before. I love that trope. So I am very, very excited about this one. So let's review the overall core concept of the book. A teen orphan, destined to be the worst kind of hero. He says no thanks to fate and goes to a magic university instead, and then has to work around a divine curse, essentially, that sabotages his spellcasting. As an aside, this is one of my dad's favorite books, so I do have a little more insight into it than I usually do with my first looks. But one really cool thing about the story is that the mark is actually manifested and talks to him in a way. If I'm not mistaken, that's my understanding of it. And in so doing, he sort of gleans information slowly from all of his failures and mistakes and learns how to be better, while essentially tricking the mark. So my key takeaways are the subverting chosen one tropes, the focus on creative problem solving over raw power, and the emphasis on found family and academic growth. Now, keep in mind, I have not read these books. That's not how the first look works. This is research ahead of time. I have scoured the internet for information about this book. I could be wrong about certain things, but I do try to make these as accurate as possible. So as far as I could tell, there's not really any trigger warnings worth noting. Just the standard, fantasy violence that, what is a good fantasy book without some fantasy violence? Not that I write dark fantasy or anything. All right, let's look at the main character, Alex. He is smart, he's resourceful, he's analytically minded rather than the typical chosen one archetype. He is not just naturally gifted, he works hard, he studies, and he uses his cleverness as well as his mistakes and his failures to constantly grow and progress through the novel. So some cons that I did see noted in reviews and forums and such is that he could be kind of overly analytical to the point of indecision, which frankly, relatable. And some readers found him too passive or patient in the early chapters. This book is not so much for, at least I think, readers who like that fast-paced action, that constant action, that high-stakes driven storyline. This is, like I said, more slice of life. There are moments of action, there are moments of high stakes, but that's not really the focus of the story. Now, of course, what is a book without excellent side characters? There is Selena, his little sister. She's not just a protection side quest, she's an actual character. There's Teresa, the best friend, who is competent. She has her own skills, she's strong. There is a strong found family dynamic that is already established at the beginning, so unfortunately we don't get to see that build, but we do get to see how the found family impacts each other, which is also good. And even the university classmates have distinctive personalities. So some of the cons that I read about the side characters, the sister kind of disappears during the university sections, and some of the side characters could use more development. Just from what, it was very vague, those comments that I read, so I don't really have more examples of that, but there were some comments that readers wanted more development in the side characters. I would judge that for yourself, though, as you read it. Because it was very much, the side characters are awesome, the side characters need development, that conflicting dynamic in the reviews. The romantic subplot is also very slow burn. It's really not a focus in book one. It evolves from what I can tell over the other books. So if that's a focus for you, just know that the romantic subplot is there, it's just a slow burn. Now let's talk about the world building. The university is detailed and feels like a real academic institution. The magic is very clear. It has clear rules and limitations, which is always very good for a magic system. The political and religious systems are well integrated, and there's natural exposition without info dumping, which I hate info dumping. And I know I've written that in the past, but I've learned from my mistakes, I promise. And I really like that there seems to be a really strong balance between exposition and action and movement and a progression of the story without pausing to just go exposition. So from what I could tell, the university really is the main setting for book one. You don't get to see much of the world outside of that. And another comment I saw was that the political situation could be more integral to the plot. So it's definitely not heavy on the politics from what I could tell, but the political undertones are still there. Now let's talk about the magic system. So the Fool's Mark creates unique limitations that force creativity. We've talked about that, and that's really exciting. I'm really excited to read that. One comment I saw is that the magic feels scientific with clear rules, which is interesting. I don't know per se if this is a hard magic system or like a medium magic system. My guess is it's going to be more medium hard. There is definitely a technical component to the magic system from what I could find. And so that's why I'm leaning more toward medium hard as the magic system complexity, which can be overwhelming for some cozy fantasy readers, but I think is important in worlds like this where the main character is exploiting the magic system. You need those clear limitations so he knows how to, so that we as the reader can see how he works around them and it feels believable. So there are some really unique elements of the story that I wanted to talk about. For starters, it has 10 million views on Royal Road. If you don't know what Royal Road is, it's a website where you can read stories for free. They're web serials, so they release a certain number of chapters every week typically, and it can be a really great way to find new stories and new authors. The Travis Baldry narration for the audiobook is fantastic. He's a fantastic narrator if you haven't listened to him yet. So if you're into audiobooks, you're in for a treat. He does a fantastic job. Now let's go into a little more depth with the reader feedback. Let's talk about the praise first. The world building. I mean, it got so many compliments. Here's a great quote. Superb world building combining well-used fantasy and RPG tropes with modern sensibility. I thought that encapsulated it pretty well. There are complex characters, well-written, interesting storyline with a unique, refreshing take on spellcasting, and a protagonist who is smart, calculating, and patient. So there were a lot of compliments on the world, the characters, the magic. It all seems to come together in a really effective way. Now, of course, there were criticisms, and I'm not going to hide those from you just because this is my friend. Don't be mad at me. There were comments at the pacing issues that it was slow in the first few chapters and felt repetitive at times. The plot progression was very slow, and some feel that not much happens, but that's natural for the slice of life component, where you're looking more at the world, the characters. It's a character-driven novel more so than an action-driven novel, and you just need to know that going into it. If you want more action and combat focus, this might not be for you because this is very academic in focus. It is very studious and focused on the world building and magical system component while still weaving in a story. So now let's talk a little bit about who this is for and who it might not be for. Who I think will like it, fans of Magic Academy settings like Harry Potter, The Name of the Wind, any progression fantasy readers who enjoy character growth over time as opposed to constant action. People who prefer very smart protagonists, clever protagonists, who think their way out of problems instead of brute forcing their way through the story. And readers who enjoy slice of life elements mixed with fantasy, as well as D&D players who appreciate systematic magic. Also, anyone who likes chosen one rejection and subversion tropes. I think you're really going to get a kick out of this one. Okay, so who might want to skip this one? For starters, we know it's a slice of life, so if you are really hell-bent on a fast-paced, action-driven story with lots of high stakes, this one's not going to be for you so much, simply because of the nature of that slice of life trope. If you dislike academic or school settings for whatever reason, there's a lot of that in this one. While it's not a pure academy story, that is the core setting, so there's going to be a lot of references to it. Likewise, if you want a very romantic driven story, you're going to be disappointed because this is more of a slow burn And when I say slow burn, I mean over several books, not just slow burn through the first book. And if you prefer standalones or short series, this one is a commitment. Like I said, there's 10 books in it. I don't know how many books there are going to be total, but there are a lot. So you do have to kind of commit to this one. And if you like shorter stories or standalones, this isn't going to be your bag. So the target audience, I think, for this story are patient readers who enjoy character development, character-driven novels. I think this is perfect for people who don't like the chosen one trope and want to see that subverted and get something refreshing in terms of the use of that trope in a story. And I think this is really going to appeal to progression fantasy readers. It's a natural born progression story, and it's paced out throughout the book, so you're going to get constant evolution of the main character. So let's talk about expectations and what I gleaned from everything that we've gone over so far. For starters, I expect slow burn character development and gradual power growth. I expect an academic slice of life mixed with larger plot progression. I want to see creative solutions to magical problems using the Mark's limitations, and I'm really hoping those found family dynamics develop throughout the university experience. What I am also hoping for is the Mark's exploitation leading to truly unique magical abilities. I want to see that exploitation of the magic system front and center. I really want that to be a major part of the story. And I really want to see a satisfying confrontation with the Ravener. I don't know if I'm going to get that in book one. I'm not sure what the conflict ultimately is going to be, because slice of life, it's very difficult to create that. Now, what I hope does not happen, I don't want the academic portions to become too dry or repetitive, which is always a danger within university settings and the academy trope. I don't want the sister character to get sidelined completely. I did read a couple of reviews that were a little critical of that, so I'm really hoping that doesn't happen. I really want the exploitation of the system to feel clever and not frustrating. But overall, I have really high hopes for what the story is going to do. Okay, so now we have gone over all of the storytelling elements. What I want to do is read to you a couple of pages so you can get a feel for the writing style, which is separate. You know, in every story you need good storytelling and a good writing style. So let's go ahead and read through the first couple of pages together and see what you think. Chapter 1, Fools and Inheritance. The worst days tended to start with good mornings. You're fired. Fired! Get all of your things and get out of my shop. If I ever catch you here again, I swear on old Beard, you'll wish I called the guards for you. Master McHarris roared, his face turning beet red. As mornings went, this one was shaping up to be great. Alex Roth froze in the middle of a disaster, collapsed shelving, shattered eggs, and flour dust falling like snow in the middle of the bakery. The young man gave an awkward cough and wiped the white powder out of his chestnut brown hair. Does this mean you won't be giving me this week's pay? McHarris reddened further. I mean, not for today, obviously, but there was yesterday and first day, so that's 2 silver pieces. The baker made a choking noise before stomping across the disaster zone, jabbing his key into his strongbox, ripping it open and whipping 2 dull coins into Alex's chest. They bounced from his chest before he could catch them, landing on the floor with a white puff of flour. That's really good imagery. I like that. There! And you only get that so folk know McHarris is no cheat. Now get out! The baker snatched up a rolling pin. Or you'll need to put those silvers where your teeth used to be. Alex had seen enough of McHarris's rages to know he meant it. The young man tore off his apron and scrambled to grab his pay. He sniffed the air near the eggs as he bent, a nasty stench confirming his suspicions from early this morning. Boy, McHarris said, scratching his head, what happened to you? You were quickest-witted out of any assistant I've ever had, but today you act like a bull with half its brain slammed out of its skull. That sister of yours won't grow up proper if her older brother pulls things like this. Alex paused just as he was about to pull open the kitchen door. That was all news to him. McHarris paid him well enough, but he terrorized his assistants. Welt still marked the young man's arms from when he'd been too slow whipping the custard a couple of days ago. I don't know, sir. He gave a shrug and hid the grin threatening to spring up. Maybe it's a special day. He was gone before McHarris could say anything else. I like J.M. Clarke's writing style. I think it's really well done. The mixture of character development, even in such a small section as that, and the imagery that he wove into the action rather than vomiting it all up at once, I really like that. I like his style, and I am eager to read more. Now, my TBR verdict, I think is pretty clear. This one is going on my TBR. And I say that because, what appeals to me the most is I love when academy settings are done well. I appreciate protagonists who think rather than just fight. I really enjoy progression fantasy overall, and I enjoy seeing character growth and development done really well. And I love the found family trope. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it's definitely one of my favorites. So I like that there's that component to it. However, what I want to know is, after listening to all of this, is it on your TBR? All right, that's everything for today. Subscribe to find your next book obsession, or give me your thoughts in the comments below, because I would really love to know what you think about this video. And you can support me by either clicking the like button or any of the links below. Thank you so much for being here, my darling, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.